Welcome, crew, to What Are Your Three, a Channel 3 podcast, where we take a member of the Channel 3 community, discuss 3 games of their choosing, go through some honorable mentions, a few other odds and ends, have a nice little video game discussion. I'm Dan Tucker, and with me, as always, Leroy.
Oh, see that one, Dan. Dan, you're getting crazy. That one.
I'm done. This is the last time I'm doing that, Ray. Just so we're clear. Darrell, we did an episode right before this, and I introduced him as the king because his gamer tag is El Rey, which is, his last name's Reyes. So
that's true.
I mixed it up, and so I went with the king for the last one, and I had to follow it up. So I had to go with the French version just to mess with them.
I was going to ask, is that French?
It is French.
I'm translating my name to different languages to find.
I'm not doing it. I'm never doing it again. This was just the bit is dead as of that. It's just the rule of 3. That's all I'm doing.
All right. Well, today's guest, a while back now, Dan and I got the opportunity to be part of the Loop Bros podcast, talk about games, what we thought about games, and talk about Channel 3 and all that stuff. And so we finally get to do it the other way here, and we get Resident Darrell, the host of the Loop Bros podcast, with us tonight. How are you doing?
I am excellent. It is, this was the perfect time for a podcast. My wife's like, why are you going on with him so late? I'm like, I don't know. He says he's in retail. I guess he's not getting off work till late. And so she's in bed. I was playing some video games. Set myself a little alarm just in case I fall asleep in the recliner behind me. And I was like, ooh, it's game time. It's showtime now. So I'm excited.
Yeah, we don't sleep over here. Sleep is for the week.
I'm just glad that Loop Bros is back. I was worried that 3 episodes after ours, the semi hiatus was announced. And I was like, oh my god, we killed 300 episodes. There were 300 episodes in. How did we kill them? Okay. The semi hiatus ended last week, and you're coming back and getting some periodic content in there, filling in with the Patreon content. But I was so worried. I was like, oh god, how do we kill a 300 episode podcast?
So it was it was crazy. Like our lives and our schedules were like a battle royale, and it just kept getting choked out. Before you know it, it was like, okay. And so we hit 300. I had this great idea. I was like, are we going to rebrand things? I'm going to change things up on the back end. I'm like, I'm going to edit things differently, and we're going to, instead of doing one giant 3-hour podcast every week, I'm going to release it in smaller increments. And then I was like, it sounded good in my head, and then when I put it into practice, I was like, good Lord, I just doubled my editing. This is a terrible idea. And then I've been talking to the guys in the background a lot, and we're very involved in our church, and the opportunity to serve and volunteer with the youth ministry had presented itself, and I'm like, well, I'm totally going to do it. And just my background is in youth ministry. I was a youth pastor for years before I had kids. Now that I have kids and we're at this huge church, it's like, oh, now they want me to plug in. They want me to help out. And I'm like, I got vested interest. I got 2 kids in the program. I'm like, of course I'm going to be there. And I knew giving like those 2 nights, the kids were already there. Now the wife and I are there. It was like, okay, there's only 1 night of the week left, and that's podcast night. And I was like, I've got to make some changes, because what's going to happen is everything that we're not doing on Wednesdays and Sunday nights is going to force itself into Thursday nights, which is our recording night. And I'm like, there's just no way. So I did a land the plane hiatus, took a couple weeks off, reset, kind of restructured the format of the show and how I want to do it, and reached out to some people that can record early in the morning. See, the crew that we had were great, and I hate that things are the way they are, but it worked out perfect because some of the guys who were launching new podcast projects, and the Bearded Nerd, who was on your show just a few weeks ago, he just had, I think yesterday, the day before, at the time we're recording this, just had his second kid. So it was really perfect, kind of like, some of the guys weren't going to make it much longer anyways. Like I said, that battle royale, it was just getting closer and closer in. And so it was a good time to just go, all right, let's take some time. Let's refresh. And then now it'll be different. And I've got some cool guys lined up to jump in periodically. And it just so happens that the program I use to record has an app now, which is going to make it easier to get guests that don't necessarily have to be in front of their PC. And okay, you think, why does that matter? Well, it matters because of the time of the day I'm going to be recording. A lot of people are going to catch them on their lunch breaks. So I have an idea. I think it's going to work, and I think I'll be able to continue to do the community-based video game content through the Loot Bros, but also tap into some of our UK friends, tap into some of my comic book and game design friends that are typically busy. And so I think it's gonna work good. At the very least, it'll give me the opportunity to continue to jabber my jaws and talk about games. And then realistically, that's all. It's a me thing. I just want to talk about games. Who cares?
You did a great job pulling in a British guest, because I've been talking to at least 2 folks. So I'm like, we can't do 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock on a Sunday night here because that's 3 or 4 in the morning for them. That is not going to work. And someday I'll figure that out. But I'm sorry, British people I've been talking to. We want to have you, I promise, but that's not going to happen.
Well, send your British friends to the Loot Bros podcast, because I can make it work. In which, for a year, I had a Australian gentleman on our show. Good friend of mine. His name's CJ, #1 trophy hunter in Australia. And it's a 13-hour difference between us. And so he would be recording early morning the next day from the future, essentially. And he made it work for as long as he could. So I understand when it comes to time zones and all that stuff, man, it gets crazy. And so some of our UK friends have stayed up super late to game with us and to podcast with us. So now, and Gareth specifically, he's a friend of mine. So met him through doing the podcast. And over the years of us just gaming together and interacting, if you've listened to Loot Bros for long enough, his family flew into the States and went to Universal Studios, and then my family drove down 11 hours, and we spent the day in the theme park together. And you would think this is either going to go really well or really weird, and it couldn't have been any better. Like, we had such an excellent time. Our families meshed so well together, and so it's kind of stinks, because it's like, man, my podcast crew that I'm so tight with and I enjoy talking with so much, and like, we just don't have the time anymore. But this opens me up to tap into other friends, you know what I'm saying, and to do cool stuff. So Loot Bros is a place for me and my friends to get together and talk about games. It doesn't have to be the same friends every time. And I'm excited that, I'm able to do it.
Let's get one more update now. Let's get one more update before we get into the games. How's tell us about the Connect adventure?
So
yes, get that out of the way. Yes,
let's get that update in. I gotta know
the crusade. Yeah. So my youngest son and I, we were at dinner tonight. We were kind of planning our update video. So the idea was, when we got to 500 subscribers on YouTube, we would do an update on where we're at. We're sitting at about 50-ish copies of Connect Adventures on our crusade. And one of them is sealed. We have a sealed copy now. But what's really interesting is we've started to find Connect Adventure variants. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't realize there's the purple case, like the one you see everywhere, but there's also
default,
they have sleeves. They have a Connect Adventure sleeve. We discovered our first sleeve the other day. And now we have a sealed copy. So we're sitting at about 50-ish copies. Now, we could have gone buck wild and gone into video game stores and bought their whole stacks. And I've had to kind of pull the reins back a little bit, because the little man, he's like, if we see it in life in general, he's like, we got to buy it, Dad. That's part of the rules. I was like, no. When we're filming and we're game hunting, if not, we'll buy 500 copies of Connect Adventures and never have any money to do anything. So far, we are moving along. The YouTube channel has slowed down a little bit. We were growing pretty quick. It seemed we were doing pretty good. And then we've once we hit that 500 mark, we've slowed down a little bit. Still ticking up, but not moving as fast as I expected. But that's okay. When we get to 1,000, I've been kind of storyboarding the video. And I'm personally excited about filming it and doing it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's not going to be what everybody expects. And then it will be what everybody expects. So I'm very excited. In my head, so I don't think I'm a YouTuber. You know what I'm saying? I'm not like a video guy. I don't even like being on camera, really. That's why I film with the camera facing away from me. But I'm starting to try to wrap my head around, like, what's fun to watch. I know what I like to see. But I kind of like to see the nerdier side of what we do. You know what I'm saying? Like, what things sell for, like what rare game exists that I had no idea about. Like things like that I think are super cool, but like completely not what people watch the videos for. So I'm trying to wrap my head around, like, what's going to be a fun video, because when we get to 1,000, we're going to take all of the copies that we purchase and we're going to go to the shooting range. And the kids want to throw axes at them. We're going to get a bow and arrow. We've got guns. I mean, this is the South, so it's going to be fun. But I'm kind of in my head, I'm like, all right, but, you know, I got to make it fun. So I've got some ideas.
If you're hearing it, do your part. It's Resident Darrell on YouTube. Of course, you can do the c3.gg/residentdarrell and just find all the links anyway. But
I try to post. I try to go in there and post them. I try to post regular. I try to go into C3 every day and claim my daily XP. And I don't know who updates the roster of video games to be reviewed, but we need some more games in there because I play a lot of stuff that's not in there.
You just submit those admin alerts because Lord knows which will be an excellent segue into the games. We're starting off with some familiars, but there are a couple on here that I'm like, yeah, my pre-bedtime routine tonight's going to be adding in some honorable mention games that I do not have in there.
Heck yeah. I need to, show me how or tell me how to do that, and I'll
hit that menu admin alert. Just submit them, and we will have them. We got some librarians in the background working to add games in. So say the word.
Heck yeah, that's like one of my favorite. It's this again, one of the nerdiest things. Going on there and like I'll see what everybody's posting, and most everybody's like, you know, like playing their multiplayer games and all that stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. But like, what I like to do is go in there and rate the games that I've played. And then wait for the response when someone goes, I can't believe you only gave that 3 stars. What do you mean you don't like Mario Kart?
Well, let's jump into the games on that note. Let's talk about your self-identified favorite game of the PlayStation generation, which I will not call the PS1 generation. I will not call the PlayStation. Ray is in here right now trying to edit the document in front of me. Because in my notes I wrote self-identify favorite game of the PS1 generation just for myself, so I don't say something ridiculous. I was going to say the PlayStation generation, but now, you know, Ray's messing with my notes here. But anyway, we're talking about Resident Evil 2.
PS1 was a throwback. They did PS2, and they did that PS1 like slim. Right? That was their first kind of mini thing. They slimmed down every system, but they made a PS1.
Darrell, ignore him. He's moody tonight. Let's talk about Resident Evil 2. Go. He's moody tonight.
Nintendo 64 classic Resident Evil 2.
Oh my god.
The no load times in Green Blood Resident Evil. Yeah. So yes, PlayStation on the PlayStation generation, pre PS1 or PSX as they like to call it sometimes. Resident Evil 2 OG. Favorite game of all time. Like I still to this day, I play it every year. It's almost like a celebration, you know. Like anytime we travel to go out of town or something, I've got it on my Vita. I try to run through it. My son and I last year played through it together, and that was kind of his first experience. Maybe it was the year before. I don't know. But like absolutely adore that game. I still just put it in. It's comfort food. I think that the story's amazing, that the gameplay was amazing. It's the right mix of horror and action. I love the remake, but the remake takes away very crucial story pieces and crossovers between Leon and Claire that really solidify their relationship and why they should care about each other. And you can play through the remake and run into one of those characters 1 or 2 times, and then at the end it's like, oh my god, I'm so excited, I'm so glad you made it. Like what? Who is this person? You said 2 words to each other. They really, really missed what made the crossover scenario so crucial. And you played the game in its inverse. So you have a scenario A, scenario B. So if you start with Leon, you play with Claire, and you see what he didn't see. And then you flip it again, and you play through the opposite way. Play with Claire A and Leon B. And you're technically retreading the same ground, but it feels different. It plays different. There's different weapons. They have different loadouts, if you will, different abilities. And to me, it was just that game was so smart and so ahead of its time. And to this day, I haven't experienced a game that made me feel the things that Resident Evil 2 made me feel beyond the horror aspect. The horror is almost like a supplement to just the actual game itself. So it's absolutely adore that game.
When you do your playthrough every year, you kind of your journey to Mecca annually of playing the game through. Do you play both versions then when you do it?
Usually I start fresh, just a run through of the original game. Maybe I'm playing Leon, maybe I'm playing Claire. Sometimes I'll do the inverse. Admittedly, I do scenario B ratio wise, we're probably talking, oh man, 1 out of every 5 times I might play scenario B. Not near as familiar with it. It used to be more, so I would do like a scenario A, scenario B, and then maybe even an arranged playthrough. And I don't know how many people have actually really nerded out into Resident Evil, but you could play the arranged mode where it changes your, like, where your items are, your key items and stuff like that. So it could really make the game way harder because you think you run a pattern, you think you know where you're going, and you might even manage your resources accordingly. But then it takes items and puts them in different places. Now you got to rethink how you get to them, and it can make it way more difficult. So
you got to do that to a speedrunner and not tell them and just watch them throw a hissy fit. That's.
You know, I used to fancy myself as someone who was good at Resident Evil, and over the years, it's like even though I continue to play it, I get less good at it. You can't beat age. I mean, the older I get, the more I'm like, oh, my skills have atrophied. I've played 700 games this year. Wait, what room am I going to? You would think I would be able to play it in my sleep, but it's quite the opposite.
Well, it's not just that, but how many games use the original Resident Evil 2 control scheme where you're doing third person having to turn right even if they're facing you. Mm-hmm. So it's not a skill set you keep up with. It doesn't matter, muscle memory or not of, okay, I know I need to go down this hallway. The angle changes and it still messes with my brain to this day. I always had a tough time with them. I had fun with the first 2 Resident Evils, but man, I have to get into a different mindset. I don't know when the last time I played either one. I mean, it's been more than 10 years since I've played either one of them. I think I played Resident Evil 2 on the PS3 was the last time I did it. And my brain is just not there.
Yeah. Well, for me, I spent so many, so I've told the story on the Loot Bros before. My brother and I, we always play games together. And my dad owned a video store. So in the back, we would have his TV, his CRT TV with the Nintendo 64, my CRT TV with the PlayStation. And we would put in Resident Evil 2 and we would race. And the thing is, this is like 9 times out of 10, he's going to win because there's no load times. There's no load times on the doors. So even if we ran the exact same path, the exact same way, he would outpace me on sheer loading because that PlayStation load time was crazy. You'd sit there for 30 seconds to a minute waiting on the door to open. But it never ceased. It would never fail me. He would do something stupid and he would die. And I'm like, now I get to catch up. But we would sit there and play the game like that was our thing, we just sit there and play together. It's like, all right, let's Resident Evil 2, let's go. And man, we just played it so much, and I played it every version. I played it on the PlayStation. I played it on the GameCube, the GameCube release one. Played it on the Nintendo 64. I played the digital versions across the the PlayStation Network re-release stuff, and I would give anything to have a modern day trilogy, disc come out with trophies on it. Let me play. Even right now with PlayStation Plus Premium, they put the director's cut, the original version of Resident Evil 1, no trophy support. I'm like, what are you doing? I was
get me Mr. Capcom on the phone right now.
I'm saying, I've been texting Mr. Capcom I think he's blocked me by now. So, but yeah, favorite game of all time, absolutely.
So you played this with your son recently. You said how were the jump scares? Because you probably, at this point, after a quarter century of going through this game, just jump scare, tyrant coming through this wall here. I just remember that one because that was me. The first time I went through it was actually, I just was watching my dad play it when I was a teenager, young into the teenage years. And I remember he's just walking along, the music's just kind of chilling there, and then suddenly just boom, coming through the wall at you. There's the tyrant. It's time to run. You don't get to, there's no breathing. You got to run. You got to escape this thing. So was there any reaction to that with your son of some of the way they just drop this stuff in on you in this one?
So sadly, not like you would expect. Because, for us at that age, this was revolutionary horror. This was cream of the crop. But he's grown up with this stuff, I've very carefully paced him to what he's allowed to play content-wise. I'm not one of those crazy parents that don't allow you to experience anything, but we do it together. We experience stuff together. And I am trying to filter at least as much as possible. You're only gonna be a kid for so long, and then when that genie's out of the bottle, he don't go back. So we just kind of slowly work our way through it. But horror now, it's so accessible. And now there's horror YouTubers, and there's horror Roblox games, and there's horror Fortnite maps, and there's some form of horror everywhere. Hello Neighbor, stuff like that. Five Nights at Freddy's. They've grown up with this stuff. And jump scares, not only in their content is it so prevalent, but also in our house. Jump scares is like our love language. Like my wife, there's a good opportunity. She'll come in this room and try to scare me before this podcast is over, unless she's asleep. We are hiding behind doors and popping out at each other with masks. And if you follow me on social media, there's a video every single year that is reposted of me and my daughter in Batman masks, hiding behind a door. My daughter's 3 or 4 years old, and she just can't. She's so excited. She's wearing a Batman mask. Her curls are just flowing everywhere. And it's as soon as my wife comes out of the bathroom, we dive out at her and scare her. It's just that's what we do. So when we finally got to the point where I was comfortable with him playing this game, I've already let him play Dead by Daylight and stuff, so it's kind of put the cart before the horse. I'm sitting back, I'm all right, here we go. And it's oh, that was cool. Oh man, that's cool. And I'm yeah, it is cool, but dang it. It's not hitting like it hit for me, he's audibly going, man, that's cool. Nah, that's cool, Dad.
Listen,
I see why you like it.
You got to pull a 19-inch CRT TV up, turn all the lights off in the room, press his face right up against it. Just say, all right, now you play the game.
Get scared. No, it was cool because we were in this room. Now it looks like a mess currently behind me because I was just sitting in there, but I've got these giant freaking recliners and then two 50-inch TVs on the wall, right? So we are sitting here together. We're got the game on, lights off, surround sound going, and we experienced start to finish over the course of a day or maybe two. Maybe 2 nights. I can't remember, but we went through it, and it was cool because we walked away from the experience. And he was like, "I see why you like that, Dad. That was really good." And I'm like, "Yeah, it was." So it was fun.
Hi, I'm Adnan, one of the co-hosts of Strangecast.
And I'm the other co-host of Strangecast, Adam.
Yes, this is Strangecast, Player One vs. the World's Life is Strange centric podcast. We mainly talk about Life is Strange, but we also talk about games from Deck 9, from Square Enix, from Don't Nod, and we also bring on people from the community of Life is Strange and also developers, and including voice actors. Many of whom have won awards for their performances.
So come check us out on all major platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Come check us out, Strangecast.
Cheers.
All right, well, let's move on to game number 2. Let's talk about Max Payne 3. Which I only say 3 that way because it's not usually one that comes up here. But there's a series moving into the PS3, the Xbox 360 era. A little bit more of a total environment focus versus I think the first couple games were a little bit more level-based, linear. Is that a fair way to put it? I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but Max Payne 3.
I don't know if you guys have played the Max Payne games before. I started with the first one, and it was... just very somber, really interesting. Bullet time, a little janky in the controls, but you had that really deep, raspy, Max Payne just dialogue going over. Yeah, and then the shaking of the pill bottles to get your health back, and it's oh man, your family's been killed. His story is so similar to The Punisher, and I'm such a huge Punisher fan, so it's this is so cool. This is Matrix style, slow motion, bullet time combat with the Punisher's story, all for this drunken, pill popping, disgruntled cop story. And so I love the first one. The second one came out, and I adored the second game. I was like, these are amazing. By the time the third game came out, I'm traveling with my band. I'm married. I've started my family. I'm just burning the candle at both ends. And I was really focusing hard on music production. I was writing music. I was creating music. And I was learning how to record and mix and master and all this stuff. So all my free time was really spent learning. I won't say I was honing in my craft or anything. I was just learning how to do stuff. And I remember getting the game, playing it. This is that same kind of time frame of like Gears of War and stuff like that. And I was like, this is cool. And then my brother, I was at his house one day. I remember watching him play Max Payne 3 online. And so when you kick into the slow motion bullet time, it kicks it in for everybody. I was like, man, that's awesome. That's crazy how I'm going to go play this. And I just remember like starting it and going, this is cool. And then walking away from it for years and years and years. And in the past 2 or 3 years, it was one of those games where I keep seeing it on the shelf, and I'm like, man, I got to finish that. Man, I really got to get that. How have I not played Max Payne? I'm this Max Payne advocate, right? So around the time Max Payne got re-released with trophies for PS4, I played through the first one. I get a bunch of trophies. I'm like, this is awesome. I downloaded the second one on Steam. I put it on, and I'm like, man, this is awesome. And I don't play much PC stuff, right? So I really gotta need something to go to PC to play it. I was like, I'm going into the third one. It's just right time, right place, right headspace. And I'm sitting in my basement before I'd taken over this room right here to be my office. And it's freezing cold. Like it's dead of winter. Like the walls are framed up down there. And there's electrical and there's plumbing and stuff, but I haven't actually put sheetrock on the wall, so it's still an unfinished basement. I got my blanket wrapped around me. I got my little space heater at my feet. I got my surround sound kicking. And I played that game, and it hit it checked all the boxes. It was so good. It was one of those things where I'm like, I'm so glad I got to experience this when I did, when I had no distractions and I was just in the right mode to play it. But it was like, how did I wait 10 years to play this game? Why did I wait 10 years, Which it hit right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think I would have enjoyed Max Payne 3 the way I did had I played it when I was just so distracted. But it was one of those things, we were doing our backlog beatdown, and I'm like, I made a list of games that, like, these are like, everyone says these are bangers. These are things that have to be. How did you not play this? How are you this PlayStation 3 collector and PlayStation 3 advocate? You never played Max Payne and, all this stuff. And so those are a couple games that I just was like, all right, we're knocking them out. And I was just blown away. So good.
See, I was wondering if that counted for the backlog since you picked it up on Steam separately.
Well, I played the PS3 version for that, but I'm notorious for when I'm into something, I might go play all the versions of it. So like Resident Evil 5, I've 100% it on Xbox 360, platinum it on PS3, platinum it on PS4, and I've almost 100% it on Xbox One, and I've beat it on the Switch. I bought it on Steam.
I mean, you guys go through your backlog beatdown, but otherwise it's a rare and beautiful thing to hear something actually make it out of the backlog, especially the better part of a decade later.
Well, that was kind of the whole thing.
It's like a lost toy in Toy Story. I thought it was just there forever, just stuck in the bottom of the toy box.
Yeah. Well, that's why I started. I did this for me. Here's the thing about the Loot Bros. It's the Loot Bros, and it's about my friends, about our community, but it's all really about me. It may as well be the Loot Bro show because all the things that I do them selfishly to motivate myself, right? So it's like, okay, I want to knock out all these games I have. What can I do? Hey, guys, I got this great idea, this community event. We'll all play together. But realistically, I just need a motivator to beat Max Payne 3. I mean, come on.
So you didn't get to do the online mode, or do they have something? I know Steam sometimes. It
was dead.
Yeah,
it was dead. Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I played the PlayStation 3 version, like start to finish, and it was done by the time I jumped into it. Now, I experienced it before, like I said, at my brother's house just once, but I didn't get to experience it like everyone else did. So I did cheat myself, but in the same respect, I don't think this would rank so high in my list of games had I not felt it the way that I did. So.
All right, and let's move on to game number 3 from PlayStation back to the Xbox 360, Gears of War 3. You wrote, this is the game I rediscovered my love for. What do you mean by that?
All right, so I've been trying to find things me and my kids can play together, right? And like the way we set up our PlayStation stuff in the house is I've got a PS5, my oldest has a PS5, my youngest has a PS4 Pro. Now, PlayStation doesn't offer like a family plan of PlayStation Plus that covers everybody, which I think maybe Xbox kind of does now, but it doesn't work the way you think it does. Like
they're all terrible. Yeah.
They're all, yeah. Like
there's no good family plan.
No, so the way we have it is as long as I'm logged into me, I can play my PS5 and my games. Okay. My oldest, his console is my primary. So he can access my digital library and he can play online. Now, my youngest, he is using his Pro as my primary because PlayStation are allowed to have a primary PS5 and a primary PS4. So he can access my digital library and play online with his friends. So that being said, when they have a friend come over, they need today's profile so they can play their games online because everything's not like it was when we were coming up and all split screen and you just play locally. Now it's like you got to have 5 versions of the game, five online accounts, all that crap. So what I did in our basement, we've got this like all these theater chairs and 3 55-inch TVs, 3 PlayStations. I got 3 kids. Everyone has their own gaming station. So no one ever fights. Now, if you follow my YouTube channel at all, like I buy bulk loads of games and consoles and stuff like that, and I pull out what I need, sell all the rest to pay for the next haul. So over the years, I've acquired enough consoles to make sure my kids all have their own without them being these spoiled brats that just get the latest and greatest thing, right? Because that's not the case. My son wanted a PS5. I said, you save up your own money for your own PS5. And he did. He was technically 12 or 11 or 12 when he did it. Whenever it came out, he got it a few months later. Kid's diligent, super smart with his money. So, but all that being said, whenever we have kids come over that want to play, or my daughter, maybe she wants to get on there and play something with them that's not just like a free-to-play game where you can play free online, they log in as me. So then I go jump on the Xbox. So in my room, I was like, okay, what do I want to play that's on my Xbox? And I was going through and I was playing a little bit of Halo and I was playing a little bit of Gears and all stuff. I was like, man, God almighty, Gears is still so good. Gears is good. I mean, I loved those first 3 games. I really enjoyed Judgment too. Most people kind of poo-poo on Judgment, but Judgment was a good story. A little funky how they incorporated the horde mode into the story, but so anyways, I got that kind of fresh on my mind, and my son and I were like, let's play some games together. I said, son, we're going to play Horde together. And he's like, what Horde? Horde on this, Horde on that? I was like, no. We're going to play the original Horde. We're going to play Gears of War Horde. Now we're going to go to Gears 3 because in my mind, that's the best one. And so we had some time, not too long ago. He was out of school for a doctor's appointment and he was getting his braces put on later. So we had a couple hours. I was like, well, let's go play some Gears of War. So we sat there and split screen Gears of War Horde mode, and it was just like he had never experienced it, and I was getting to experience it again after all these years, but with him, in the same way that I was playing it with my brother when it first came out. And just, that nostalgia kicked in, and just the Horde mode is good. Gears is so good. And just watching him just go, oh, that's cool. Oh, wow. Like just hearing and just kind of feeding off of it. I was like, man, I remember just all the nights, all the Mountain Dew, all the Doritos, all the Gears of War, all the GameStop midnight releases. Like it brought me back to like a time and place. And I'm like, I played Gears 4 and it was fine. I didn't love it. Gears 5 was better, but it just, none of them hit like 1, 2, and 3. 3 was like the peak. And we used to do LAN parties. We used to have all the guys come over, multiple Xboxes. Just Gears all night. And when we weren't playing music and working, we were playing Gears. So just getting back into it after a lot of years away from it, and just kind of experiencing with my kid now. He's old and he's 13. And he's just like, this is crazy. So it was good. So to really rediscovered that love. And now I'm like, he's got the flu right now. I'm like, come on, dude. We could have been playing Gears all weekend.
Ray, it sounds like Darrell's one of the guys who is traveling and loading up on the Mountain Dew Gamer Fuel this weekend. Just pulling a pickup truck up.
You see my picture? I posted I found the red one.
Oh, you were
they
one
brought
of
them back. Yeah.
There were so many of them going around. I
They
couldn't
brought
keep
it back.
track of who all it was between the two of them. So yeah, you were in fact one of them.
funny story. Somebody in our Loot Bros Facebook group had posted like where to find them, like a app or something, or website. And then one of my old podcast co-hosts, he got in, he was like, "Are people really into this?" And I was like, "Bro, like you had to be there." 2009, Halo 3, Gamer Fuel, like it was a thing. And so we went grocery shopping the other day, and I saw one in the wild. I was like, "Bro," so I grabbed it, and I said, and gave it my 9-year-old. I was like, "Hey, you're gonna learn today, bud." So
we were drinking all kinds of drinks in different colors, and nobody cared what was actually in them.
Most of which is illegal in 12 countries and 23 states now. Yeah.
All that
fuel, and it's gamer fuel. Oh man,
yeah.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, especially that Gears. You could play co-op. You play right there in the split screen. I remember playing. My brother is a little bit younger than me. That we played together, and you could play the difficulty. You could switch the difficulties, and it would do it at the same time. The person on easy would not get hit as hard, and you could play it together. I mean, that game, it was just. I wish we had more games like that too. That third person over the shoulder. Horde mode, you get knocked down and you're there like desperately trying to save your teammate.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was, and you're right. Gears 3 is the best version of playing, at least. So the Horde mode plays the best on it for sure.
It was so cool because like pulling it up and like I got to give Xbox their roses, man. That background cloud syncing on the saves and stuff. I like fire up my Xbox One in here. Brings up Gears, brings up my old game save, all my old stats, and man, then I got the Lancer and the shotgun it's like matte black with the white Gears logo on the side, and then all the molten lava versions and everything we had unlocked, and like the pink flower version, all this stuff, and I was just like, oh gosh, I'm like, man, I can literally see the room I was in. This was my first home that I bought with my wife. The guys in the room, I can tell you, one of the dudes the night we were playing this game together, we're all set up, we're all playing, and one of the dudes goes on an energy drink run for everybody, and then takes a picture of his junk on a dude's drink before he drank it, like that on a Horde night. You know what I'm saying? I was like, bro, it was like, this is terrible. You should have never done that. I was mad that night.
The 360 was a wild time. 360, the 360 chat. There was no.
It wasn't just the online mode, apparently.
No, it wasn't. It was a fuel. It was a gamer fuel.
It was a gamer fuel, man. You know what? We need to bring back gamer fuel. Our generation would be a whole lot tougher.
Darrell's got a basement full of unfiltered, the original Formula 4 locos ready to go, just in case too.
Oh, gamer fuel locos.
So Gears 3, one of the wildest things they did. Obviously these games have been out for a while, so no spoilers. The Carmine family, doesn't do too well in these games. But Gears 3, they held a vote.
Yes, I was explaining that to my son. Vote. Yep, kill Carmine or save Carmine. Yeah, I have the shirts on my avatars. Like, I mean, my dude right now is wearing the Kill Carmine shirt.
Absolutely, that'll be a wild thing, and they were like, "Yeah, no, we program both scenes. We figure we'll do it one way or the other." Like, that's insane. They say, "Yeah, we made both. It was, we'll throw one out when you guys vote." And we have the only Carmine that makes it multiple times.
So good, man. And that was another thing too. Just like the stories, like the God, man, those set pieces and stuff were so good. Those campaigns were amazing, and then the multiplayer was so fun. Like, it was just one of those things where, like, and then again, plug and play, split screen, doing everything. Like it's crazy that games have advanced and the consoles have advanced so far, but yet have so many steps back, it seems, because the Xbox 360 really seemed to be the golden age. Like, between, in my opinion, Xbox 360, PS3 was like really, that's where it's at. That's where I feel like games were at their best. 360 was the king for a while. We were getting your Gears games, we were getting your Halo games, we were just getting banger after banger. I'll throw Splinter Cell Conviction in there. It's like just a game that really stands out as amazing. The Left 4 Dead games. And then you jump over to PS3, we're getting MGS4, we're getting Heavy Rain, we're starting to get these crazy wilder experiences, and like then we get into the Uncharted games, and I was just like, we're just drowning in amazing games and amazing gameplay, and there was no shortage of opportunity to play great games with great stories, great multiplayer experiences with your friends, and you didn't have to go get 4 consoles. You didn't have to have multiple subscription services to be able to play online. You didn't have to wait 8 hours for updates. It was just like you put the disc in, you get your AA batteries and your gamer fuel, and you play.
And you had, like you said, you named like 3 different shooter games that all played differently, right? So you had different styles. You could play Call of Duty, the time to kill, immediate time to kill. You want to play fast, that's fine. You want to play Halo, you want to float a little bit. You want to play Gears when you had to really like shoot down on somebody, or you hit them with a 2-piece. Like it was like totally different styles. Like it was, like you said, that was that time where they gave you versions. You weren't playing the same game with a different skin. You were playing completely different stuff.
It all felt different, and it was crazy because I have a lot of games, man, and I'm like scrolling through the games that I have, and I'm just like, I don't know. Do I want to try this? This is fine. This is good. This is kind of whatever. But man, back then it just seemed like it was like, boom. I mean, you just knew. Well, you got you got near the Xbox. You knew what you're gonna play. I was like, man, I was like, I'm gonna play Gears. Oh wait, the boys are on Call of Duty. Let's get on Call of Duty. Oh my gosh, everybody's on Left 4 Dead. Let's go get scared and friggin' sneak around the witches, and like, man, it's good times, dude. It was really good, and that was the thing. Just like all of that flood of nonsense that I just blurted out of my mouth, all came from playing Horde mode, because immediately I was like feeling that again. I'm like, man, take me back. Got dog at Gamer Fuel's out, Creed's back together, Gears of War. Come on.
I'm gonna take the running away from the witch as my segue here. We're gonna move on to the honorable mentions. Where we've got 2 games coming up here that as I watched them, I had less and less hope for Civilization. As the first one, The Chant. Let's start with The Chant here. Let me tell you, I've never heard this game, so I'm sitting here watching gameplays. A remote spiritual retreat. That's there. There's a setting for this one here, and you are playing, as I remember, Jessica, I believe is the character here, and she's on an island. She's going on a retreat. And at some point, she's like, "Hey, this is kind of weird, but we'll figure it out." So let's start with this. Is this the game? Kind of describes itself as almost like this island. Can you explore the piece that you want first, or is it kind of a linear progression of how you want to play this game?
Very linear. It is a linear third-person psychological horror game.
Yeah,
and. So I'm assuming, just from what you said, you never played. Dan, have you ever heard of The Chant or played The Chant?
Nope. This is a brand new one for me.
So this is kind of what I do, right? I look at the library of games that I own, and I get analysis paralysis. I'm like, I got too much to choose from. Don't know what to play. What do you do in this instance? Oh, you go to the store, and you look at, let's just go buy a new game. And this is a game that I saw. Anytime a horror game pops up, I put it in my wish list, and I wait for it to go on sale if I don't just immediately buy it. I'm a horror buff. That's what I'm into. And I buy more than I play, by all means. And so this is kind of one of those that I saw. I was like, okay, this looks interesting. It was in my wish list, and I don't even think it was on sale. Maybe it was. I don't know. But it popped back up, and I'm like, let me look at this. So I go to the videos of, when you're looking at the PlayStation Store or the Xbox Store, you can go down and look at the videos and screenshots of it. The second video that they had posted was almost like a documentary on how the sound design was made. Now, I'm a sound buff. I love music. I like creating music. I love sound design. I love creating sound I've created some stuff for video games. We'll see if that stuff ever makes it into a final game before. But I've created it. It hasn't happened yet. We'll see if it happens. That being said, this game, the way that they were promoting it was like, the sound is one of the most important parts of the game. And I was like, oh man, that's really interesting. And the way that this guy was creating noises and creating tension through the sound, I'm like, oh, okay, you're speaking my language. Boom, bought it, let's go. Put my headphones on, and I dig in this game, and it sucked me in. And it's got a little bit, this is a common theme here, got a little bit of jank to it. Like, it's not the smoothest game ever. Like, sometimes you get there's little blemishes in the game that like kind of frustrate you, but also ramp that tension up real fast. Like, oh crap, I just got stuck for a second. Let me go, but the game is cool. You're on an island. There's been some trauma that happens, and you go there looking for a friend. This friend is participating in a cult, and this cult uses essential oils and crystals to contact this other side, this parallel dimension kind of thing. They do the chant, and it goes wrong, and then chaos ensues. That's like the opening 15 minutes of the game. And then from there, it's figuring it out, and it's playing with the things that you're seeing and hearing, and each person almost represents a different environment. And as you go into those environments, the things that the trauma they've experienced is kind of manifested, akin to like a Silent Hill, but like way more colorful. And just the sound design, it's awesome. And it's just one of those games that was like just puzzly enough and just horror enough, but also not too much of one or the other, so you could kind of just burn your way straight through the game. And I freaking loved it. I was like, man, this game needs to be talked about. People need to hear that this exists. Like, this is a cool game made by a small team, and just there's a lot of love in it. Definitely, you could tell this was a passion project for a small group of people, and I would love for them to get a. I don't know that they need a budget. I don't know that they need more. I just want more of what they're doing. Like, I don't need the biggest, most expensive, craziest games. Like stuff like this, 8 hours or less. Let's go. And it's a good, cool game. If you're a scaredy cat, it's not too bad to where you can't manage it. If you're a diehard horror buff, this isn't going to be the jump scare masterpiece that you've. But there's just enough of it to go, wow, that was creepy. That was cool. Okay, I see what you're doing here. I like it.
So it's got kind of 3 avenues of play. Did you see yourself kind of falling into one of them? Because it's like there's the mind, there's the spirit, there's the body, right? It's the 3 thing. It ends up with 3 endings depending on how you go. Where'd you lean towards as you played it?
So I somewhere between mind and body. There's certain powers that you can manifest as you kind of progress through, and you kind of find what works for you. You have to use everything, because like, I don't want to spoil things, but again, each area represents a character in the story, and their trauma is kind of portrayed through for the horror aspect. But each one of them, it's almost like a Metroidvania in the sense that like you can't go through certain areas until you've beaten these and gotten the power that you need to beat the next thing. So you kind of start to kind of work your way through. Now, I haven't gone back and platinum this game. I'm gonna need to do at least one more playthrough to completely finish this one off. So this is kind of one of those that I played through, had an absolute blast with, and then I'll wait till my next trophy competition or something, and I'll go, well, I need trophies and I like this game, so here we go. That'll be the next time I revisit it.
I thought it was funny when you said that it's a little janky. I'm watching Jess. It's not like a lot of combat, but you can kind of fight back a little bit. I find it very funny that this girl is beating up on these spirits that are a little bit bigger than her, and she's like slapping them in the face with a bottle, and somehow it's doing enough to get by. I found that very funny.
So there's 2 games that like this game makes me think about, right? So and with the way that she acts and reacts to things, it's very much Tomb Raider reboot. Mm-hmm. Like as Laura first started to really get into things up until the point where she killed the first person, it's like a lot of physical, like this is this is hard. And they do a really good job with Jess like going through that, you know what I'm saying? And then the other game that it kind of reminds me of is almost like Control, with the fact that this person has to kind of rise above these crazy weird circumstances and like, okay, there's I need to harness this power and do the thing to move to the next one. So very similar in that aspect, but not like nearly as like Control's like way crazier than this game. Well, they're both very crazy, but Control takes way more of a sci-fi route. This takes more of a psychological horror route, but it's good. It's got some really good segments in it.
All right, let's talk about another indie game here, Gray Skies, which I had to look up. It was War of the Worlds kind of world that they put to it too. A two-person team put this whole game together. Now it gets a lot of critiques. A lot of I'm reading about it, and people saying it felt more almost like a concept design instead of like a finished product. So why'd you want to bring this game up here?
Okay, so this is another one that people need to hear about. I bought this game a couple years ago. When I first saw it come out, I was like, okay, cool. I like War of the Worlds. I mean, I thought the movie was neat. I've never read the books or anything like that, but I thought the movie was cool. And it's kind of selling itself like it's a sci-fi horror game. I buy it, and it immediately starts off with like a plane crash, and the character that you play through the game has this slow motion like walk through all the rubble and debris of the plane crash. And while it's happening, the song is playing. And it's very much like a Hideo Kojima kind of segment. That's like, whoa, wait a second. I mean, they lay it on thick. Like, you don't get to race through this. You have to see all the pieces of the plane burning, and you slowly walk through it, and the song really sets the tone and atmosphere. I'm like, man, this is like got a real strong opening. And then when you actually get into the gameplay, it's very much like kind of sells itself as like this is a stealth game. And it's a while before you really get into any kind of combat. And when you get into the combat, it's like hard. It's freaking hard. And you die. And it's like, oh man, that was okay. I'll just become more careful. And then you die. And it's like, I played this game for a couple hours, and then I was like really into it. And then I was really out of it. Like, this sucks. This game's trash. And I'm like, it's like the term Eurojank. This is the definition of Eurojank. Like, I'm running and I'm getting stuck on things. I'm running and it makes me stop. And I'm like, then this thing kills me and then like stun locks me. And I'm like, I can't get away from it. And I like, to the point, I deleted the game and I was like, this is trash. This is terrible. Waste of money. A couple months ago or a couple weeks ago, I don't even remember. I'm on the store, paralysis by analysis. I got too many games. What do? I need to go to the store and buy another one. And I see Darker Skies. The sequel is released, or it's on sale. Actually, I think it might have been like during the October, like one of the Halloween bundles or something. Anyways, it was on there, and so I bought it. I was like, oh well, I've got to have it. But I'd be a real poser if I jumped into the sequel and didn't finish the first one, or at least give it another shot. So I am a firm believer that every time you play a game doesn't mean it's the right time. You're not in the right headspace to play every game. I play a lot of games. So for me, I know that I can play something and it not hit today, but in a year, 2 years, 10 years, Max Payne, it could be seriously one of the best games you experience all year long. So before I go and jump into the sequel, let me try this let me try Gray Skies again. So I bring it up. It's downloading. I could look up a trophy guide. Well, first I look at the trophies I have, and then I look up a trophy guide. Like, okay, is this even manageable? Is the platinum even in the conversation? If I can get past that weird janky combat section, is this a game that I want to pursue? And I found a video that said you can play this game in like an hour and a half. I'm like, how? I spent an hour and a half in that one section dying 10 times. And so it's I don't know if you guys do any kind of trophy achievement hunting, but the trophy hunting community is very familiar with a guy named iBadDriver. And he does all the Ratalaika games and the easy platinum games. He makes all these, really crappy trophy hunting videos. His videos are good, but the games are usually crappy. And he's like, guys, this game is really good. He goes, I recommend you play this game and experience it first. The atmosphere and the tension are really, really nailed in it. It's really great. But for this video, I learned that if you just run past all the enemies, you can beat the game and platinum it in no time. And I was like, okay, I didn't try that. I was trying to play the game because it tells you this is a stealth game. This is a stealth section. This guy's like, no. I made an hour and a half, 2 hour long video of essentially the main path. And if you just run past these sections, very similar to Alan Wake. If you've ever played Alan Wake, there's a lot of times those shadow guys come up on you and you get overwhelmed. If you just run to the light, you can make it to the next section. A lot of times you get a checkpoint right there. Same thing with Gray Skies. It's seriously just run past everybody. Like, that is the way to play the game. Now, there are certain sections where you're tunneled into the stealth, but like, it's a combination of the atmosphere, the tension built between these enemies chasing you, and then the forced stealth sections you can't get out of. It just was like, man, this is awesome. It feels like this is the intended way to play. Even though I know that's not the way the game presents itself, the way that the trophy hunter made his video is the way to play. And so it's one of those things where I played this game and like I watched the video. It probably took me 3 hours, 4 hours to finish, because I would get into sections where I'm like, okay, I see where he does this in the video, but I screwed it up. Now I got to run loops around the map to try to get these guys off me, so then stealth back through. So there were certain areas where I'm like, okay, I see the main path, but I'm going to do things my way. Worst case scenario, I'll just dart through. So once I got past that initial section and I kind of saw how you can play the game and then how you can break it if you need to, that's like the way I play stealth games, right? I love Splinter Cell and I love Hitman. But if I have to stealth and there's no other option, I'm out. I'm just not going to do it. But if I can stealth until the point of like, oh, you caught me, bang, 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 everybody's dead, and I'll run out of here. You know, like that's the way I like to play. That's how this worked. So similar to that. So it was cool. I freaking love the game. Gray Skies is awesome atmospherically. There's sections in it where there's like, it slows you down and it makes you listen to songs that like really set the tone, but it is bathing in Eurojank. So it's like, it's when it's good, it's good. When it's janky, it's janky. And I like stuff like that. Like I like B movies, and that one really just, I would say the chance a much better game than Gray Skies. But if you aren't, find it for a couple bucks, give it a shot. It's totally worth it.
All right, well, let's move into your final honorable mention here. We're going into the XCOM universe and hitting up the Bureau, XCOM Declassified. Not the same as much of the turn-based action of most of the XCOM series. They wanted to branch into a shooter, didn't lose the tactics. So similar, you got to plan, you got to strategize, you got to use your environment, and much like XCOM, you got cover, you got to plan out what everybody's doing. So how'd this one work out here?
So my brother and I, we both work in the same industry, right? We both work in the mortgage industry, and we both work from home, 100% remote. So we every day, or at least every other day, we call each other and just kind of go run through and like what our day's looking like. And in the mortgage industry, you can find yourself very isolated, and not a lot of camaraderie, even with people that you work with, because you're all technically competition. It's essentially a sales gig. And so a lot of times your partners in the industry aren't necessarily your friends. Like you work with real estate agents, but you're the scapegoat. If anything goes wrong with the purchase, the mortgage guy takes the fall. It's never the realtor's fault. So, in the past couple of years of us doing this, we have both like, anytime something happens or you see something new, you learn something new, we call each other and say, bro, let me tell you what I learned today. Because one person learning might take them years. Two people learning, you learn twice as much in half the time. And so every day, every other day, we're calling each other, and it's like, oh, how things going? Plus, he just had his first kid. So my nephew, he's 4 months old, 5 months old almost. And so I'll call, hey man, how are things going? Because he's home with the baby, and his wife just had to get back to work. Now we live right down the road from each other, so if at any point in time the baby's getting unruly, not feeling good, whatever, and he needs a hand, I can dart over there. And I'm a three-time champion over here. I've already done my time. So it's like, hey, if you need a hand, let me know. I'll come over.
You're already in zone defense. What's one more, right?
And you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I was like, so I can pop over there and give you a hand. Because I didn't have that. You know what I'm saying? And my wife didn't have that. We didn't have help when we started. So anyways, checking in on him. And I said, dude, I got this idea, right? Here's what I'm going to do. Okay. In my little office is a command center, 5 monitors, right? 255-inch TVs on the wall, 5 monitors around me. It looked ridiculous. It's like a spaceship in here.
Just call it NORAD, yeah.
Yeah. I've got the 2 over here for editing and podcasting. YouTube videos and podcasting. I've got let's be honest, 2 for work, 1 for PlayStation. It's supposed to be 3 for work. I said, I got this idea, right? I'm going to start playing like CRPGs or turn-based RPGs while I'm in between my calls and stuff. So here's the idea, right? I'm doing this big email campaign right now, trying to generate business, and it's so boring because I've got spreadsheets brought up, and it's like, all right, enter someone's information. I enter their email. Send out 10 emails. Send out 20 emails. Send out 30 emails. And then get up, stretch your legs, try not to jump off the house. And I said, what if, this is what I'm thinking. I'm like, what if I do like 10 emails and 10 social media hits, and then I do a turn on an RPG or something, and then I do 10 and I do it. I almost reward myself, right? Get this stuff that's boring done fast, and then take a turn. And that way, while you're in the meantime, it's like, oh dang, that's pretty cool. Oh no, they got me. And I was like, I don't know. I heard someone talking about XCOM or something on a podcast. I was like, I'll start with XCOM. That's what I'll do. I've never played XCOM before. I'll put on an XCOM game, and then I'll set up my move, and while everybody's doing whatever they're doing, I'll whatever. Didn't work out that way. Also, the XCOM game that I chose was a third-person shooter. Didn't realize that was the case. So I downloaded the game on my PS3. I get everything set up. All right, here we go. Do first 10 emails. All right, here. Oh, whoa, that's really cool. This is a third person. Oh man, this is like taking back place in the Roswell time frame. Oh man, this is neat. But I ended up just kind of completely. My whole plan didn't work out, and I started playing this game. I'm like, man, this is awesome. It's a third-person shooter, cover-based shooter with tactic options. You know what I'm saying? You pick up teammates, and you say, okay, you go over here, you go set up a turret, and then we fight aliens. And there's tons of dialogue options, a la like Mass Effect and stuff like that. It's like I'm having full-on conversations with people. It looks like what's that game with the alien that's really funny?
Destroy all humans.
Let's like destroy all humans. It's like takes place. It's like the playing that, but a third person cover based shooter. It's like, man, this is cool. So wasn't planning on finding myself into a third person shooter like that, but sure enough, that's what this is. So it's
so
cool.
So much of that when you have real time action instead of more real time, not turn based.
Well, the thing was I didn't even realize that like just the XCOM wasn't going to play out that way. Right, so I started playing XCOM on my Vita, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, this isn't going to work for what I had in mind anyways. But it just was one of these random ideas that threw me into a game that's really, really freaking cool. So, that's just kind of been something I'll play a little bit before the day gets started. Just chip away, do a mission on XCOM or the Bureau, and then... And so it just looks neat. I don't know much about what's going on. A lot of times I play it with the sound down and I'm reading the dialogue or whatever, but it's a cool shooter.
Playable Characters Podcast, funny interviews with real video game characters.
Hi, I'm Calvin Cato.
And I'm Brian McGinnis, and we interview video game characters on our show. We have comedians and actors come on and pretend they're a video game character for 30 minutes. We talk to them. It's all ad-libbed and improvised and always very funny.
Past guests include Bowser, Ms. Pac-Man, Q*bert, Princess Peach, and Princess Daisy.
Yeah.
Yep.
You put them in a booth, and something short-circuited, and I decided that someone was taking too long in the money booth. And I hit her with a baseball bat. And thus was born Super Smash TV.
Just like that.
I was being raised by a family of toadstools.
How is that? That seems like it might be kind of fun.
It was really fun.
Mario should stick to plumbing, okay? Okay, he's from what I hear, a good plumber, a terrible hero.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really bad. And I mean, let's not get started on his, whatever he is, friend, brother, special friend, I don't know, Luigi, whatever they're doing. Well, that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. They're saying they're brothers because, in the Italian-American community, these people tend to not look kindly on certain relations.
If you want to know what's going on in your favorite video game character's life, check us out. Playable Characters Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yes, comes out every Monday.
All right, well, let's stick with those 50s sci-fi vibes, and we talk about 50s, we talk about horror. Let's talk about your future game here and go into Alone in the Dark, a new plot incorporating the first 3 games. So they're bringing this one back. It was supposed to be before the end of the year, but this one's coming in January. You've got some star power behind this one, as we're seeing more and more. You got David Harbour, most people know from Stranger Things, and Jodie Comer is in Free Guy, so you can do some video game tie-in. It's not all movies, right? It's not all movies. We got a video game tie-in here. It's like a big video game movie, okay? But Killing Eve, some other stuff that she's really good in. But they're bringing back Alone in the Dark. Is this a series you played with before, or this could be a first story?
No, I played the original Alone in the Dark on the PlayStation console, not the PS1. And I actually have it downloaded, that version downloaded on the Vita. And I remember playing it. I don't think I ever beat that one. That's one of those games that I constantly look at and I go, "Ooh, I'm going to start that again," but I never do. And a couple years back, was going through just the games that I own, and I was like, "Man, there's the Alone in the Dark for PS3, the Inferno edition." Now, I played Alone in the Dark, the Xbox 360 game, and I remember the marketing behind that game. Look at the real-time effects of the fire. When you set a piece of wood on fire, it burns everything. The whole gimmick was creating fire to keep the enemies away from you and to get into areas that you need to go to. And I don't really remember like all of it, but I remember playing the 360 version. And I was like, this is janky and busted, and this game sucks. Like I don't remember a ton about it. I just remember that version was absolute garbage, and I think it was first person. I don't remember playing it in third person unless you could toggle back and forth.
See, that was near my kids were being born, so it was a dark period. And
yeah.
I didn't hear, so my gaming time was rare, and that was one that I heard nothing good about, frankly.
No, absolute garbage. Now, fast forward to when my kids were really little. I have the PS3 version, and I'm like, I'm gonna try this again. Let me see. The PS3, the Inferno edition, was updated. They patched out some of the bugs and some of the issues that were wrong with the original, and it was awesome. Janky, kind of had some real slowdown on the frame rates here and there. But what I would do is I'd put my kids to bed, and then for the first couple hours of the night, have the baby monitor there. My wife worked nights at the time, so I would just sit there and just veg out playing video games until I passed out, and then I tried to always make it to the first feeding of the night and then go to sleep. Try to game to the first feed, because you know how it is, man. When you have to get up in the middle of the night and feed them, if you sleep first, you're groggy. You're
better off just keeping yourself out of the sleep cycle and just
exactly. When you get sleep on that second leg, that's what you have for the night. So, pro tip for any fresh parents out there. You think in your head, I just need to get my eyes closed for an hour or two, wake up, feed them, and then freaking whatever it is that you need to do, do it in that time frame.
Same advice for people who stay up too late gaming and recording podcasts. Same exact advice, yeah.
Absolutely. Just power through and then sleep, But yeah, that's what I was doing. And I played through the whole thing, got the platinum trophy in it. It was awesome. A good mix of tension, a good mix of jank. I like my janky games. So seeing this version right here, this new Alone in the Dark, I am super excited about it. And they're very smart. They didn't drop it beside Alan Wake 2. They got out of the way. They said, we're going to push to next year.
We'll just hold till January. It's going to be post-Christmas. It's going to be quiet.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be a good time. And I think that, this year is just so busy. We're getting so many just top-tier, amazing games. Banger after banger after banger. And so next year, we're going to have a stacked year next year. I think February is ridiculous. So getting this one in January, I'm excited for it. I was very excited. This year we got Dead Space Remake, we got Resident Evil 4 Remake, we got Alan Wake 2. That's a lot. The horror fans are eating good.
Wait, you're just forgetting Nintendo. Oh, you're just going through horror. Okay.
You does horror games. Yeah. I'm not talking about all. We could.
20.
This year is an all-time year.
Tomorrow they announced the game of the year. The Game Award nominees for all of them. Every category, someone's gonna be angry that someone got snubbed out. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they decide things this year. Nintendo already set up as Tears of the Kingdom as their game of the year. Another one has picked Baldur's Gate 3 as game of the year already. So I don't know how they're going to even nominate things.
I can't wait till Keeley has to sort through the... What was it? Sorry.
No, I said Resident Evil 4 won a bunch of joystick awards already this year. So the golden joystick or whatever they are. But yeah, dude, Keely's got hit me like, dude. But this is great. This is and they're partnering with Peacock this year for the Game Awards. So they're gonna have this huge platform for the show. It's gonna be. I mean, there's so many good games. Like is like 9 potential Game of the Year candidates now that are like
easily.
Like, dude. I mean, everyone's gonna be mad, but realistically, who can be mad? I mean, you got freaking Mario Wonder. You have Tears of the Kingdom. You got Resident Evil, Dead Space. You have Alan Wake. You've got Starfield. You got Baldur's Gate,
Final Fantasy
Spider-Man 2. Yeah, Final Fantasy. That's 9 games right there, just like easy.
I'm gonna be mad because they're not gonna nominate Mario Wonder, and I'm gonna be mad because it just came out. They're not gonna nominate it. I know it.
The thing is, like, this is all a self-feeding entity too. That, like, a good luck, Keely, navigating the politics of not pissing off Nintendo and keeping Sony happy and throwing Xbox a bone out there to, like, make them happy. Sorry, Xbox people. We didn't list for you there this year, guys.
Are you going to nominate Hogwarts Legacy, the game that's, it might be the best-selling game of the year? I don't think it's game of the year, but it's sold so much. Are you just going to ignore it?
Yeah. Well, you also got to think about there's 3 other bangers that we didn't mention. You got Redfall, you got Gollum, you got Kong.
He's taking shots. It's nothing but shots here now, people.
That's going to be the Loot Bros game of the year. I was like, what are the crappiest games?
Loot Bros game of the year. Best jokes coming out of Redfall.
I forgot those games. I forgot those games.
3 weeks after it came out, they didn't have enough concurrent players on Steam to form a team in the game. Yeah, that's
isn't that crazy? It was so funny is I kept everyone on our podcast at the time were like, yeah, they're raising the price before Starfield. I was like, no, guys, they're raising the price after Redfall. Think about it, like what they just did to you. Like, PlayStation said, yeah, we're raising the price to the moon, but you're getting some good games. Xbox is like, oh, Redfall? Price hike. Let's go.
All right. Well, next, we're going to jump into a question from the Channel 3 history books we pick for you to discuss here. We don't warn our guests which one we're going to pick, and there's only one that's going to be appropriate for you, and it's asking you, in your history of gaming, you've heard about your trophy hunting, you've talked about your platinums throughout here. So I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite achievement or trophy in gaming you've gotten?
Oh, that's such a hard question. Favorite? Probably the platinum in Call of Duty Ghost. The reason why that won't be my favorite is because that game came out and it was just trashed because the multiplayer was apparently not great. And so everyone talked about how much they hated Call of Duty Ghost, right? I played Call of Duty Ghost, and that was my kind of return to Call of Duty. I spent several years not touching them. And my wife bought me an Xbox One bundle, and I had Call of Duty Ghost with it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try out the Xbox One. I'm going to play Call of Duty Ghost. I played it. The campaign was awesome. It's a story about 2 brothers with an amazing cliffhanger. I'm like, this is great. I'm like, guys, did you play this Call of Duty Ghost game? This is awesome. Everybody's freaking dumping on it. So I started Loot Bros podcast, and I mentioned that I like Call of Duty Ghost. My co-hosts are dumping all over it. So what do I do for Christmas? I buy everybody on the panel a copy of Call of Duty Ghost. And it became a gimmick. It became like a stick on the show. So Call of Duty Ghost. Every time somebody like asks for something or whatever, it's like, got any Call of Duty Ghost? And so then I order the hardened edition offline. I pick up a copy of it loose. I get the special edition with the binoculars, and I've got all the versions of the Prestige edition of Call of Duty Ghost. And I just started this like shelf of them, right? And it just kind of became this gimmick. So a long time ago, Loot Bros, we used to stream while we did our podcast. We used to stream for ProvenGamer.com. And then we broke off, did our own thing. We would stream a game so that we could be on Twitch. And it used to be on Twitch, you had to actually have a game going, even if it was just like a menu.
There was no just chatting feature, yeah.
Correct. There were no hot tubs. There were no bikinis. You know what I'm saying? Like, guys like me actually had to play a game. So we would, one night we put on Call of Duty Ghost. Well, this dude like jumps in and he's like, hey, if you guys want to run the multiplayer on Call of Duty Ghost, I'll help you get the trophies. I was like, let's go. So I host a community game night with the Loot Bros. And some of our podcast listeners jumped on, and this guy from Russia gets on. He's like showing us all the Easter eggs and doing all the stuff, and we get all the multiplayer trophies. I beat the game on veteran, and I got the platinum trophy with the listeners of the show. So it was one of those things to where like, this is this game that everyone hated that I really enjoyed, that became my gimmick. And then with the listeners, I obtained the platinum trophy. I was like, man, this is like a love story right here. This is TV. This is poetic how this all worked out. So that one's got to be my favorite.
And the last question we ask everybody, what's been your favorite feature on Channel 3 so far?
Oh, like I said earlier, rating the games. Like I could sit there seriously for hours and just scroll through rating games. I would say I wish it was easy to get back to the stuff that I rated, and maybe it is, and I just don't know how to do it, so that I could go and review it. Because one of the things that old Matt G, one of our old podcast hosts, said that he said, well, to double your XP, you rate it first, and then you give it the review. Well, I rated like 400 games on there, so I was like, how do I go back to each one and get on there and leave them reviews? So that's just super fun to me. So.
All right. And with that, we have made it to the end of another What Are Your Three podcast. Resident Darrell, thanks so much for being here with us. You can catch the podcast at c3.gg/podcast, dropping every Wednesday morning at 3:33 a.m. Eastern on all the major platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. I'm Ray. Dan Tucker puts this all together. And for our executive producer, Joel Willis, have a good day, everybody.
Hadouken! Mission accomplished.
Hey.
You can if you go to your rated games, they'll all show up for you right there. Because I went to your list and I saw all the ratings. You have one review for, where was it? You had one review in place. Super Mario 3D All Stars is your one review, and you got all the ratings right under it. You can just pick them and type in the review right on it.
Yeah, if you click on it,
you'll be the top one. Yeah, you're the top person.
So I got
on your page.
I see it. I do see it.
That's okay, because literally when we finished the one before this, Ray and I were like, "Oh, we gotta tell Joel to put this feature in." They're like, "Wait, we better double check this." Like, "Oh, it already exists, so we better." Because we get him really riled up by like telling him like, "Hey, can you do this like someday?" And he'll be like, "I'm just doing it now. I'm just doing it now." And so we have to double check these things we learned before we get him riled up.
We'll do it live.
Heck yeah. Yeah. So it's funny because like when I go, every time I click on it, it brings up a different game. And I guess in my haste, I was like, oh, well, that's not what I'm looking for. Because like every time I click on it, it brings up a different game to rate. Yeah. But then I guess I didn't put two and two together that when I hit.
Just go to your profile. Yeah, that's where they are.
Yeah, the rapid rate. You got the rapid rater. You got all sorts of stuff there. So
yeah, it's so cool, man. I love that stuff. I'm such a nerd for it. But then also sometimes I'll go look for a game. And something else I try to do too is because I try to post all my videos in there. Because that's at least guarantees once a week I'll post something in there. And I was like, dude, sometimes I'll try to pick an obscure game that I find and say that's what I'm playing, but it's not always in the list.
Yeah, if you just hit that menu, hit admin alert, we'll get it in there. We're working our way down a bunch of lists, but dude, the indie games alone coming out every year, good lord,
dude, it's crazy.
Joel's working on some stuff in the background to try and automate some things to get a lot of this, like Steam alone. My God, I how many games are on Steam at this point?
Dude, it's ridiculous. And there's so much shovelware. So it's like, where do you start? You know, if you did automate it or had a way to tie in with
he's working.
It would just flood.
My only sense of mortality is how many video games came out this year I'm not going to be able to play. That I'm never going to have time to play.
It's just so many.
So I've been logging the stuff that I put in my personal collection since we started this YouTube channel, and I'm at like 1,130 physical games. And I'm like, I'll die before I play those. I could stop right now, and I'll never finish all these games. So the only logical conclusion is to keep buying them and not worry about it.
Yeah. They're there for my kids now. That's what I say. Like, yeah, kids will get to them.
My youngest, he is all about what we're doing. So, like, the only reason I even do YouTube is because that's something
your kids
that
are
they
having a
want
blast with it. Yeah.
Oh, it's so fun. And so, like, tonight we were sitting at we had said our prayers. We'd done bedtime routine. And I left. And he called me back in his room and he wanted to ask me a few questions, whatever. And I said, dude, I got this idea for a video. I was like, we really got to get past the 1,000 mark because like the next series we do needs to be all about these big trade deals. And I was like, think about this. And I was showing him like marketplace posts. I said, what if we bought like the latest and greatest console and we posted it up for trade for old video games? I said, look at this. Someone shared a video with me of someone doing this. And look at all he got. So I'm showing him this guy's video, and this dude got all this Sega Saturn stuff and Sega CD and 32X, all this stuff. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, we don't really want any of that. But it's like, look at what he got for an Xbox Series
What
S.
can you do?
You see what I'm saying? Like, we could take out large chunks of the stuff that we are collecting. And that's another thing, too. It's like, we're doing the run to 1,000, but like, there's not really a ton of rhyme or reason to it, but it's kind of like I don't want to add too many layers. Like right now, it's like we buy in bulk, we pull out some. We've got a couple milestones that we're trying to hit, and then all the versions of Connect Adventures while we're hunting. So once we get done with that and we blow them all up or destroy them, then I'm like, well, what are we gonna do next? I'm like, full wrestling sets like that. We're gonna hunt specifically. I got this idea for a deck of cards and each card having a different game on it. You ever play the game Mercenaries or Mercenaries 2 specifically? It's a OG Xbox PS2 game. I think actually Xbox 360 has a version of Mercenaries 2. It's like Just Cause essentially.
Okay.
You're these little mercenary guys. It's an open world game, full destruction, all this cool stuff. But you're hunting down, I think you're in like South America or something, hunting down drug cartels. And every mini boss and every boss is a different like card from like a deck of cards. You know what I'm saying? It's like the Ace of Spades, the Queen of Hearts and all this stuff. And I was like, all right, what if we give each one of these cards like a game? And the kicker is the number on the card is the budget. You know what I'm saying? So, like, we would have to be smart about how we do things.
Yeah, much like the most wanted list in the military would have you have your Ace of Spades, and they've got... Yeah.
Right. So we would kind of, like, map it out to where, like, okay, we generally think we can get this for this, this for this, this for this, but, like, oh, man, look, there's a Queen of Hearts in the wild, Like, I don't know, just, like, I'm trying to gamify, trying to channel 3 up our game hunting, And so I'm sitting now with my 8-year-old, almost 9-year-old, and we're brainstorming YouTube videos and things to do. But he's so into it right now, and I'm like, well, as long as you're having fun, we're going to keep doing this.
Right.
And so the other two are into it, but not like he is. Like this, like him. This is like a thing.
I'm just waiting. Some guy in the next town over from me is opening up a store next week because he just had so much stuff. He's like, I found a cheap place. I'm just opening a store up at this point. So
there you go. I'm actually. So one of the game stores that I often talk about, Overstock Collectibles, they have a marketplace. It used to be a bin store, and I don't know if you guys have bin stores where you're at, but essentially like the Overstock and stuff. Just
buy all the leftovers.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
put
everyone's doing that now. So now all those pallets have gotten more and more expensive. So now those places are starting to go out of business. So this guy, he's a friend of mine. He's like, you know what? He's like, I'm gonna turn this into like a vendor mall. Now, we have some of the biggest YouTubers in the space in our town, right? So, Harry Tornado, he's got nearly 400,000 subscribers. He's one of the big faces for the resellers and whatnots or whatever. And so he has a booth, and he's been doing, a lot of his videos in this particular vendor mall that just opened up. So I reserved a spot, but I didn't want to open until December, because I've just got so many other things going on. And so I'm going to have myself a physical spot too, but it's pretty much going to work like a consignment store. Like I'm going to put my stuff in there. They're going to sell it for me. And then occasionally I'll go in there and I'll advertise like a trade event. Like, all right, here we go, Facebook Marketplace. I'm going to be there from these hours. Bring your trades. I've got cash. Let's go.
There's a lot of those places popping up now too with it. Like, take a ticket, buy the thing, and they'll take care of it for you.
Hey man, that's that's kind of like that shared economy is kind of where we're at now. Uber,
yep,
and like handyman. What is that? There's like a handyman.
Yeah, there's like 3 competing ones of that. Yeah.
Yep. So I mean, same thing. Yeah, there's like every antique mall within a 100-mile radius of us has a waiting list miles long. So this dude's doing pretty good. So I was like, I mean, while the YouTubers in my area are hopping on it, I'm like, well, I need to have my foot in there too, so that when this thing blows up, I can at least ride that wave with them. Because I'll never do it like these guys do it. It's always going to be a hobby for us, even if our channel does grow and it does start to generate income. It's going to be just to buy more games. So that's all we care about.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I got to be up in like 3.5 hours apparently. So I'll talk to you guys later.
Good night, everybody.
See
Later, guys.
Yes.
Back in the day, Dan had this idea that these were going to be 33 minutes long.
Which was really smart.
And last week's was an hour and 15 minutes. Yeah.
Way back in the day.
Yeah, this is in fact right on the top of my notes page. It still says a short form podcast under 33 minutes, which that lasted probably like 10 episodes, and then we usually go 45 to an hour. But again, last week's we had an hour 15 after I cut out some stuff. So
I haven't quite finished last week's episode. Or the last one you posted, 48, I think is the one.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, the one of the college kids, whichever.
Yeah. Not a huge fan of the college kids. That makes me feel old.
Again, Ray's about 10 years younger, closer to 10 years younger than me. So I just did 40, and like hearing the 21 just audibly.
Well, dude, that's like the bearded nerd. He is 12 years younger than me.
Yes, so we learned during his episode, and he dropped a 27 on us or whatever it was, and I felt like I got kicked in the teeth.
So he's 11 years younger.
He's a young one.
Even Ray, he was able to take shots at Ray even. And Ray's, what are you, 31 or 32 now, Ray?
I'm 31, yeah.
Yeah, so I am 38. I'll be 40. I'm going straight to 40. I'll be 39.
Just cut out the middle, man. Just get to 40. 39, you just spend the entire time, be like, 10 more months till I'm 40. 9 more months till I'm 40.
I'll be 39 in February, so I don't have too much longer to go.
Yeah, just
all the college ones, I feel like they go out of their way to let us know that they're 20, 21, 19.
I hate them. It's like,
they always drop it. Somehow they drop their age every time. I don't ask them. I know you're young. I get it.
He lured you into a false sense of security talking about his time with the Nintendo 64 also. So it gives you this thing of like, okay, I was 13 when I got the N64 when it came out. Mm-hmm. So you're like lulled into this, and suddenly like, oh no, he was playing it in a museum on his grandfather's grandfather's CRT.
When he got the Nintendo 64, I was already getting girlfriends. I'm like, I don't know that I want to play video games much longer.
I think I came up with Zach's too, where I was like, I already had a job and a house and had moved and like had changed, moved across the state and relocated for work by the time you did whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. I remember, there was a piece of that conversation I listened to when I was like, yeah, hold on a second. He's describing some things. I was past that already. Like, we're not living in the same place.
No. That was kind of thing too. Like whenever I hear some of these young cats go, yeah, I grew up with the Xbox 360. I'm like, I was with my wife when the 360 came out.
Yes.
I'm like,
college was done. I had my career growing. That was it was over at that point.
I was traveling and playing music, and my wife was finishing up college, and so I would play shows or practice whatever that night had, and then I would go to her apartment and then play like Condemned on Xbox 360, and she would watch it like a horror movie.
Yeah, that one would be good because you're trying to run away from the guys just run after you with a knife. You're trying to
pretty good stuff.
Good horror movie viewing.
Yeah. So for someone who doesn't like games, that was her compromise.